want to speak to you about the coordination of gang stalkers. And these gang stalkers, they become fixated on anointed individuals. They become fixated on the spiritually sound individuals. And so they congregate because they have wounds that need to close, right? And here it is, you feel that possibly even many places you have gone or in many areas of your life, multiple people get together to cause you harm. And so I want to talk about this because this is where it all begins. It doesn't begin in a meeting or in a memo or some hidden whispered commands, but with something far quieter. There's this instinct of fixation. When an anointed person walks into a space, people don't react to what you do. They react to what your presence disrupts, whether it's to them as an individual or the entire atmosphere. And they can't put their finger on it, but you're just messing up what they have going on. So they react to what your confidence reflects back at their insecurity. They react to what your spirit awakens in them. They don't even know why they're watching you, but they are. They don't know why they talk about you, but they do. And they don't know why you irritate them. And before they know it, fixation becomes a discussion, and the discussion becomes a formation. People who carry unhealed wounds seek companionship in resentment. They don't sit down and plan it verbally, but internally, they're already aligned. They're aligned through emotion. One person expresses discomfort, another person confirms it, and suddenly a chain reaction forms. So they gather without realizing they've gathered. They synchronize without realizing they've synchronized. They respond as one because their wounds speak the same language. They are synced. So they'll have language such as she makes me uncomfortable because they remind me of who I am not. They don't verbalize it, but their spirit speaks it because they're aware, right? So the reason it feels organized is because their insecurity is consistent and ongoing. And it activates the same way in every territory you may enter. It will trigger the same behavior. It ignites the same envy. There are no board meetings, but there is synchronicity within them, their resonance. See, emotional resonance is their compass. That's how they do things, that's how they operate. And that's why it appears to be so coordinated because it draws them to each other and it positions you as the common thread. They don't need proof, they don't need logic, they need agreement. An agreement that is rooted in discomfort becomes the unspoken contract that they share with one another. And once that contract forms, they feel bonded. They're bonded by irritation. They're bonded by their jealousy. They're bonded by their distorted perceptions of you. Their bond is not love. Their bond is fear. And fear is always eager to find allies. Resentment is the bridge between personal insecurity and group hostility. It's how strangers become allies. It's how co-workers become informants. It's how relatives become reactors. When resentment is present, people don't need a leader. The emotion leads them. They don't need a leader, guys. There may be cases where there's a person at the head, but 9 times out of 10, they're led with emotion. They're just not idly standing by watching it. They feel it. They agree with it. See, when someone sees your confidence and then immediately feel exposed, your presence highlights their stagnation, their procrastination, their limitation. And your focus highlights their drifting, refusal to grow. And so your growth highlights their fear of being irrelevant. They won't admit it. So they cover the emotion with a story. And the story is usually about you. They think they're better. They're not who they appear to be. Something about them feels off. Or the classic, I just don't trust them. And that one sentence becomes the spark that draws other unhealed people in so they don't see you as the healer. Someone co-signs it because they want to belong. They're not idly standing by and being complacent. They secretly, quietly agree. Someone else adds to their own discomfort, and suddenly you are the center of a conversation you never joined. That conversation becomes the soil where coordination grows. They are not coordinating for anything. They're coordinating against their own discomfort. You just happen to be the face they attach it to. So they observe you, they study you, they monitor you, not because they've been instructed, but because obsession feels like protection from their insecurities. They believe if they keep their eyes on you, they'll regain a sense of control. So they all react the same way in the same order. They talk, then they stalk, and then spread, and then escalate, and then the pattern repeats. They talk, then stalk, then spread, then escalate. And the pattern is identical because their wounds are identical. So it looks intentional, but actually it's instinctual. They are following the emotional leader inside themselves. And that's why it's so instinctual. A leader driven by jealousy, fear, the belief that you are the source of their discomfort. You are the source of all their pain. Their coordination is not strategy, it is synchronized insecurity. When unhealed groups form around resentment, a hierarchy automatically emerges. It doesn't have titles or ranks. It forms through the level of insecurity each person carries. At the top is the person most threatened by you. So they become the anchor of the hostility, not because they're strong, because they're the most unstable. The person that's heading this thing is the most unstable. Their jealousy is loud. Their fear is loud. Their need for validation is loud. So people like this naturally take the lead in any resentment based group because they crave attention, influence, and control. And so while they appear confident, the truth is they are the weakest emotionally. They give the unspoken orders. And what do I mean by that? They give it not by direction, by suggestion. That's how they keep their hands a little clean. Not by power, but by desperation, making it appear urgent. And then you have the followers. These are the people who don't know who they are, people who feel invisible, people whose identity comes from proximity to the conflict. They follow the insecure leader because it gives them a sense of belonging they don't get anywhere else. So they feel important when they're part of something, even if that something is built on negativity. Then you have the silencers. These are the ones who watch everything but say nothing. They don't join in verbally, but their silence is agreement. Do not believe, oh, it was nothing I can do, but it was something at least they can say to you. They actually are in agreement. Their presence empowers the group dynamic because silence is a passive form of approval. There is no way that a friend can befriend with your adversary and say that they're not part of your problems. And lastly, you have the imitators. Now, these are the ones who mimic behavior without understanding why. They adopt the tone, the reactions, the snide comments, the suspicious glances. They follow the energy of the group because they don't have energy of their own. This hierarchy makes their dysfunction look organized, but it's really just a pile of wounded personalities stacking themselves because insecurity has levels. There is no leader, there is no blueprint. There is only brokenness disguised as unity. So don't feel heartbroken by gang stalkers. They're already broken, and their behavior lets you know who they are and what they're about and what they feel, and they will never admit this. You are not their target because you're wrong. You're their target because you're different. They actually admire you. Now, people who have unresolved envy, they feel it immediately. People who carry bitterness feel exposed. People who fear their own potential feel threatened. And people who live through a sense of ego, narcissism, or pride, they feel destabilized. This isn't planning, guys. It's reaction, a synchronized reaction. They all relate to one another. This is an unseen pull that brings their dysfunction together. And based on how many are part of the gang stalking, the community, and how what's hidden beyond, not beyond, but beneath the group, this is who they are, a bunch of broken individuals grouped together. So they dysfunction well. That's how you can go into environments and be a part of it. And you're part of an environment where it seems like everyone else is getting along and you're the only one with issues. And you may second guess yourself. The problem is you don't add any value to their dysfunction. So you don't attract their hatred. You attract their unhealed fragments. Those fragments respond to the frequency you carry. Your life is aligned with God, with purpose, with calling, and with truth. Their lives are aligned with wounds, avoidance, insecurity, and envy. And those two cannot coexist without tension. Tension becomes hostility. Hostility becomes fixation. And fixation becomes formation. And their unity is not empowerment, it is desperation. And desperation needs numbers. Numbers create the illusion of strength. But spiritually, numbers don't equal power. Truth equals power. They don't know that. Calling equals power. That's why you can defeat them all by yourself. See, you have protection and you have others in the spirit, but they don't know that. They just see you alone. You keep escaping everything they have attempted to take you down. So your purpose equals power. They can't see that. And God covers those he chooses. So while they gather, while they whisper, while they glare, while they stalk, while they create false narratives, they overlook one fact. It takes all of them to stand against one of you. And that tells you everything. People often think these groups are answering to some external authority. But what they're answering to is internal weakness. They feel emboldened because group hostility provides the camouflage. So when they hide inside a crowd, they feel safe acting out. Shared resentment feels righteous. So people mistake emotional unity for moral justification. Their ego feels validated. The more people agree with them, the less responsibility they feel for their actions. Your restraint confuses them. See, you don't react how they expect. And so they read that as permission. And then your peace reads as power they want to break. They assume God isn't watching, but he is. So you may ask, who gives the orders? Emotion gives the order. Fear gives the orders. Envy gives the orders. Their unhealed past give the orders. What they lack inside gives the orders. They don't follow people, they follow wounds. This is why they move without thinking. They act without wisdom and escalate without reason. They believe the group protects them from accountability. But they forget something. God sees motives, not numbers. And the bigger the group, the more obvious the insecurity becomes. You don't have to defeat them. Their energy runs out. Your assignment does not. Their unity is temporary. Your covering is eternal. This is why they watch you even after they stop pretending to hate you. This is why they monitor you even when they claim they're unbothered. This is why they copy you, mock you, imitate you, try to silence you, undermine you. because deep down they know you were never the problem. You were always the revelation. And once God reveals you, they cannot undo it. They can only expose themselves reacting to it. Because there's a level of this people don't talk about. They talk about envy, they talk about jealousy, they talk about hostility, but they never talk about the cost of being seen before you speak, the cost of being recognized by your presence alone, the cost of being marked before you reveal anything. And that is where the real warfare begins. Not because you're doing anything, but because your existence challenges everything they built their identity on. Most people don't need a reason to dislike an anointed person. They need a trigger. A trigger is simply you walking into the room, you breathing, being grounded, calm, collected, anchored, while their entire life is made of emotional turbulence. You're not doing anything, but to them, you're doing everything, challenging their worldview of showing them what they could have been if they had healed, surrendered, or chosen differently. This is why the hostility is premature. You haven't even spoken yet. You haven't presented anything. You haven't defended yourself. You haven't even engaged, and yet they react hard, fast, and unprovoked. Because spiritual recognition always precedes human understanding. They feel you before they know you. Their spirit reacts before their mind analyzes. Their wounds wake up before their logic kicks in. You know how people can do something and we may say it's evil, wicked, criminal, or what have you. And once they're caught, and even before consequences kick in at times, they feel remorse. They don't even know why they did what they did. It's because of their emotions. It's their wounds they carry. And their spirit is motivated by their wounds. Your spirit is motivated by your gifts, your anointing. And because they cannot explain that sensation, they mislabel it. They call you intimidating. They call you suspicious. They call you arrogant, distant. They call you something to justify their emotional agitation. But the truth is, you remind them of everything they ran from in themselves. You remind them of the voice they silenced, the dreams they abandoned, the truth they ignored, and who they were supposed to be. And that hurts. It burns. It exposes. Actually, they admire you, but they're part of a group that dislikes you as a whole. So they rather monitor you to pick up little pieces of information. They would give anything to have a part of your spirit, your aura. So rather than confront their own reflection, they target the person who triggered it, and that person is you. And this is why every chosen individual experiences the same cycle, the cycle of being watched, being misunderstood, being discussed, being feared without reason, being studied like a threat before you say a single word. You are a revelation, and revelations demand responses, even from those who don't have the maturity to understand what they're reacting to. Your spirit reveals what their ego tries to hide, what their shame tries to hide, what their embarrassment and insecurity tries to hide. It's not your talent that scares them, it's your discernment. It's not your intelligence that scares them, it's your depth. It's not your confidence that scares them, it's your stillness, your ability to glow in spirituality. They don't even know how to serve God, really. They only know how to serve man. They can't relate to you. You spent time acquiring all your gifts of the Spirit before your body was even formed. You experienced an environment that nourished you and loved you. See, people can mimic your talent. They can mimic your style, your imagery, and even your speech, but they cannot mimic presence. Presence cannot be copied because presence is built through breaking, rebuilding, surrender, humility, obedience, and then refinement. They don't see your journey. They only see the result. They didn't see your childhood, your broken relationships, How many times you believe you failed your calling and God at the same time? And seeing the result intimidates them more than anything you can ever say or do. When people lack substance, your substance feels threatening. When people lack identity, your identity feels offensive. When people lack purpose, your purpose feels confrontational. And when people lack direction, your direction feels provocative. Your existence exposes their emptiness. They are shallow, hollow, and emptiness often responds with hostility because it doesn't know how to respond with honesty. And see, this is why groups form. This is why hostility multiplies. And this is why people unite around negativity. It's easier to fight what they don't understand than to admit what they lack. Your presence carries accountability, not spoken accountability, not verbal correction, and not even confrontation, but spiritual accountability. Your existence says you can be more if you want it to be. And they don't want that. They want comfort, not growth. They want validation and not truth. They want distraction and not transformation. Your life challenges that. Your walk challenges that. Your restraint challenges that. And even your discipline. So they move against you because it feels easier than moving within themselves. People who are not anchored spiritually will always misinterpret spiritual weight, spiritual power. They call it ego because they have ego. They call it danger because they carry danger. They call it deception because they deceive. They call it superiority because they feel inferior. See, the labels they place on you reveal what lives inside them. And once one person labels you incorrectly, that label spreads. It spreads to the insecure. It spreads to the impressionable. It spreads to those who don't think for themselves. It spreads to the ones who need someone to tell them what to feel. This is how collective hostility builds, not through evidence, but through emotional contagion. Someone throws the first spark, someone else adds the oxygen, someone else adds intensity, someone else adds repetition. Suddenly, you are the story they tell because your presence disrupts their comfort. The moment they gather against you, what they don't see is they expose the fact that none of them could stand alone. If you were truly as small as they pretend you are, why would they need numbers? If you were so insignificant, why would they monitor you? If you were forgettable, why are they obsessing? If you are so harmless, why do they feel the need to attack you? And if you are so replaceable, why would they fear you? Because hostility reveals value, opposition reveals purpose, fixation reveals your calling, and their obsession reveals your impact. They wouldn't gather if you weren't carrying something. They wouldn't watch if you weren't set apart. They wouldn't whisper if you weren't appointed. They wouldn't stalk if you weren't protected. They wouldn't unite if you were chosen. And chosen people need to understand you're not targeted because you're vulnerable. You're targeted because you're powerful, not loud power, not boastful power, not even forceful, a quiet power, a stable power, a God-backed power. And that is the type of power insecure people cannot hide from. That is the type of power that gathers the unhealed like moths around a flame. That is the type of power that makes enemies build alliances they never would have built otherwise. You didn't provoke them. Your calling did, though. You did not threaten them. Your purpose did. You didn't expose them. Their insecurity did. And the longer you stay consistent, the more their foundation begins to crack. The more you rise, the more they unravel. The more you elevate, the more they collide with each other. The more you endure, the more their unity disintegrates. Because hostility built on insecurity cannot survive the longevity of someone protected by God. And that is why you always outlast them. Thank you for visiting my channel. Stay covered, stay conscious, and stay undefeated. See you on the next one, guys. And I'll be starting memberships. See you on the next one.